Welcome back to 843 TV, where communities come to speak. We are back here with Miss Allie McNair. She is the news anchor for Hilton Head's News on WHHI. How are you?
Good, and thanks for having me today.
So let's introduce you with telling everybody a little background on your broadcasting career.
Sure. Came from New Hampshire. We've lived down here about 3 years, but back in New Hampshire I'd worked in radio and then gravitated towards television. I was a producer at a commercial station outside of Boston, Manchester, New Hampshire. Did the news there. Ended up at New Hampshire Public Television and worked on, hosted, produced a public affairs news program called New Hampshire Outlook. Left the whole TV end of things, ended up doing some work with AARP. When we moved down, I said, gee, I tuned in HHI. I said, I'd love to do a little work with them. So fortunately, they said yes.
And now you're back.
Yeah. What are some of your favorite stories?
Some of my favorite stories, they're people stories and about the great people here that live on Hilton Head Island. For 2 years now, some retired firefighters have held a 9/11 memorial service near the Chart House where they remember those who served, who were firefighters, police that day, have a prayer service, take the wreath and put that out on the water. And it's really moving. It's not hugely attended, but it's meaningful, and you really see the impact that that day has had on so many lives, even right here on Hilton Head Island. I also have loved doing some stories on Neighborhood Outreach Connection, which is an organization that helps students in their own neighborhoods, actually at the Oaks and over in Bluffton, and it helps narrow that achievement gap so kids get tutoring after school so they will perform better in school, and they do a host of other things as well. But they actually use teen mentors. They had teen volunteers from the area high schools that came in and tutored these young kids, and it was magical because the teens got self-esteem from helping the younger kids, but also to hear them express so eloquently the change that they would see in these kids as they achieved and did well in math and did well in reading. One girl said to me, a young child that came in that was kind of very shy and hunched over all of a sudden arrived every day feeling good, standing up straight. So those are the stories when you hear those gems, you're really glad to be doing what you're doing.
Yes.
So Allie, what does Hilton Head News offer in their newscasts that other stations don't?
Well, I would have to say more in-depth interviews and information. Having worked in commercial television news, I know that most news packages, they call them, last about 1:15 to 1:45, and that's it. Now we have stations that aren't on Hilton Head Island that do stories on Hilton Head, but that'll be like 1:15 or 1:45, where we have the half hour to get the mayor in and we can speak with him in depth about town matters. We can have people in to talk about the Mitchelville Preservation Project. So I really feel that's our advantage. We're really local, we're Hilton Head Island, and we're letting you know what's going on in your community.
Great, thank you.
Okay, well, excellent, Allie. I mean, you talk about your favorite stories and the fact that you can talk about some specific things like the Mitchelville Preservation Project. Yeah. The Hilton Head News is so specific to Hilton Head. I mean, so how does the station cover others in the viewing area? What are the things that you offer for?
Well, I think HHI has really made that commitment to serve its viewers in a different way than they're used to being served, and one is by being so local. So they've added, since I've been there, the Bluffton News, and they've also added the Beaufort News. So those two programs, in addition to Hilton Head News, really do a good job at covering the area and really specifically targeting our viewing audience.
I think it's interesting now that it does allow you to give details that other news stations don't.
Right.
Because you have, what'd you say, a 7?
We can do interviews in studio anywhere from like 5 to 7 minutes apiece. We also do a news headline segment that's specific to Hilton Head and all of South Carolina. So we're really about Hilton Head, South Carolina, our local weather, our local stories as far as bringing people in, and that makes a difference.
You mentioned earlier that you have the mayor, so he's a recurring guest?
Right, he is, and we also get town manager Steve Riley in, who comes in once a month, so he'll give us an update. I mean, certainly in the news a lot lately has been the redevelopment of Shelter Cove Mall, and also what's going to happen with Coligny, the Coligny area. So to be able to have access to Steve to come in and say, okay, you know, the USCB campus may go where the golf, you know, mini golf location is by Coligny is good information that maybe people don't know, or more specifics.
So you've got the time to really get in depth with a story. What would be sort of a dream story for you? What are some of the stories you think you would really like to pursue that might be on the horizon?
Well, I do like focusing on education because in my mind that is key to our future. You know, if equal access to a good education for all so their dreams can come true. So I like looking at that topic itself. But one challenging story that I have not tackled yet, and we talked about this a little, would be looking at the proposed casino, you know, out near 270 or on 278 or in a development there. Because to me, when and if I do that story, I want to make sure that I get pros and cons and give each equal amount of time rather than presenting it slanted in one direction or the other. So that's one I'm looking at doing in the future.
That's such a touchy subject. Well, there are so many dynamics, as you know, we've talked earlier about it. Your version, your side, your perspective of it is so different from, you know, there's so many different influences on it that it's a much bigger decision than whether or not you just want a casino.
And we
in
think
the
a lot of
area.
the controversy would lie certainly with the image that we want in the Low Country and certainly the Bluffton and Hilton Head community. If we want it, if we do, or how it's going to help the economy, or is it really going to be, you know, that valuable to our image?
And it's also challenging in the sense that you will get people to quote different statistics and numbers and studies from different areas, and really to delve down and say, okay, who's got the info here? I mean, we can all find information that will support our opinions, but what's accurate? So that can be very challenging.
And
Well, I think
accuracy is
that's-
key in that kind of
Yes, it is.
Absolutely.
making those decisions.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. Well, thank you very
you.
much.
Thank you.
We had a
Thank you.
very interesting show today, so thank you to all of our panel members. And join us next time on some more 843 TV.
Where communities come to speak.